Morning to introduce Jen Giffen, aka Virtual Giff, as she's a teacher, librarian, and digital consultant out in Ontario, Canada. And her bio that you can all go take a look at says she's a Google innovator, Microsoft innovative educator, Apple teacher, HP teaching fellow, student voice ambassador, sketchnoter, teacher, matchmaker, cheerleader, mom of 3 boys, and just about anything. And my experience with Jen is that Jen is open to sharing what she's got. She's got a podcast with Kim Polishuk called Shooks and Gift Podcast. If you haven't gone and listened to that, that will inspire you to give things a try with EdTech. So without further ado, Jen, welcome here. Thanks for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian, very much. And thanks for having me, everyone. Brian sort of got this covered. My name is Jen Giffen. I am a teacher librarian from just north of Toronto, Ontario. I have been in this role since last September, a year ago September. And I call myself a shelved librarian right now because unfortunately in Ontario, at least in my district, we eliminated the teacher librarian role for the year because of COVID protocols. So pretty sad for me on that front. But you know, we do what we can do. I'm back teaching sort of this strange and lovely hybrid model, 11th and 12th grade English and 11th grade leadership right now. Before this, I was a digital literacy consultant with my district. It's a big district. We have about 140,000 students. I think we're up over 10,000 staff now, so it's quite large. And so I learned a ton in that role. And then in my former life, I was a high school English, math, and special ed teacher. So I've sort of done a whole bunch of things in the 20 years I've been in education. And I'm really, really excited to be here to speak with you today, particularly because I got vaccinated yesterday with the AstraZeneca. Yay, thanks for the applause in there. And AstraZeneca apparently can kick you in the butt pretty hard. So I spent 5 hours yesterday recording this whole talk, just in case I was down and out for the count, so at least we would have something. And now I guess I have a recording of my keynote. It was very good to do the dress rehearsal. We always tell students that, right? Like, look at yourself in the mirror and give it a go. And we don't always do that. But at any rate, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And like Brian said, I am the co-host of Shooks and Gift, the podcast where we just talk about education technology. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about student engagement and how we can engage students. And my title is not just a keynote because there is a rule to my talk here today. And the rule of not just a keynote is it's not going to be just me. And I know that you were really active in the chat I saw there with Dr. Bates. So I'm really excited about that, that we can maybe have some discussion here. I'm going to be talking a little bit. I'm going to share some stories. And then at the end of my stories, I'm going to open it up and ask if you have any tools, any stories, any strategies. And at that point, if you want to, unmute and jump in, you're more than welcome, or throw them in the chat and we can look. I love how many people have their cameras on. Thank you. As you probably know, teaching online, we don't always see faces. So it's lovely to see some smiles. So if you are brave enough to turn them on, if you're in a situation where you can, I would love to see you. Mostly I'm going to check out what's in your background and try to spy what books you're reading, because that's what I do right now when I read the news anyway. So let's get started. I want to start by telling you the story of Spencer. Spencer was not one of my students, but one of the children of a friend of mine. And this isn't Spencer, this is stock footage. So if you ever go online and see the stock footage and be like, hey, she lied. I didn't want to actually put a real picture of Spencer up because I don't have his permission. I have the permission to tell the story, but he was a little bit shy, although you get a glimpse of him later. Spencer was, how old is Spence now? He's probably about 12 or 13. When he was about 8 years old, so we're going back a number of years, my friends started having it's just sort of those like mom issues with him, realized that everything that was happening was a fight with this kid, right? It was like, Spencer, you need to, put away your shoes. There was a fight. Spencer, you need to get out of bed to do some work or go to school. It was a fight. Spencer, you need to breathe oxygen. It was a fight, right? Everything with this kid was fighting. And we know those kids, we might have those kids. And so she took him in and she had him tested, and he tested with an executive functioning disorder, right? He has ADHD. And that made a lot of sense to her because like he's the kid who jumps around all the time. So to try to harness some of this energy, she decided to take him in and start piano lessons. She's like, maybe if he could concentrate, things would be better. Maybe if we could just, like, you know, funnel all this energy into something creative, we could do something with it. And so Spencer would go and he would like bang on keys and jump around and drive his piano teacher crazy, my friend's words. And, you know, his sister did really well, his older sister, but Spencer, not so much. And so cut to one day at school, his teacher is talking about a big school assembly that's coming up. And, you know, we'd like to be part of it. And does anyone here, you know, play any instruments? Can anyone do O Canada? And of course, Spencer's like, me, I play the piano. I have been taking piano for almost a year now. I will play the national anthem at our school-wide assembly. So he goes home and he tells my friend, she says, Mom, you'll never believe it. I got selected today to play the national anthem in front of the whole school. And my friend's like, oh, that's great. Okay. Because, you know, as parents, we don't want to crush the dreams, but we also realize that there might be some limitations. Like this kid doesn't really know how to play the piano because he hasn't really ever played. He just jumps around all the time. And she doesn't want to set him up for failure, but she doesn't want to pull down his dreams. So she says, oh, okay, well, let's call the piano teacher. So she gets on the phone and she calls the piano teacher and she's like, hi, it's Joy. Yeah, so Spencer has volunteered to play the national anthem at the school assembly. And you know, she's like, oh, that's great. Okay, well, how long do we have to work? Like thinking it's going to be a while. She's like, yeah, it's in 2 weeks. So now the kid, and you can't screw up the national anthem. Like we all know the national anthem, you stand up and if you have, you know, notes that are off, people are going to recognize this, right? And I agree with Clint here in the chat. ADHD is a superpower. I know this firsthand as a mom of a child with ADHD. And you know, when we went in to take him to be tested, they said, you know, it's genetic. And everyone in the room suddenly looked at me. So I'm not really sure what that was about, but anyway, back to Spencer. Here she is. And she's like, okay, well, we'll try our best. So, you know, Spencer goes the next day to piano lessons and he starts learning. And then all of a sudden, something strange happens in their home, right? It's this. 5 o'clock in the morning, my friend and her husband are woken up to the sound of the piano. And the piano's playing and he's just like bang, 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 bang. But and they go downstairs and they're like, oh, what's going on? He's like, I am practicing. And for the next 2 weeks, that kid that you had to fight to get out of bed every single day was up, was practicing, was engaged, would come home and completely self-directed. So we come to the day of the big assembly and, you know, my friend goes and she's so nervous. She's like, I have no idea how this is going to go. I've heard him, but is he going to panic? And you never know with kids, right? But he was like 8 years old at the time. So I will let you be the judge of how you think Spencer did. Here he is at his assembly. Right, so round of applause. Yeah, I see it in there, cutting the onions. Every time I get full goosebumps and I share this story a lot. And he's so proud and he walks away. And why I like to share this story with teachers is that we need to remember we engage students by providing authentic audience and authentic task, right? That's how we get them going. We don't say, oh, here's a worksheet or here's something that I'm only going to see. We need to give students a reason to want to do the work. Something that's going to motivate them sort of on an intrinsic level, right? This is not new. A lot of the stuff I'm going to share is not new, but I'm hoping that with some of these stories and tools, it might perk some ideas within you. So let me tell you a little bit about my ways that I like to do that sort of intrinsic motivation to engage students by giving an authentic audience. I love podcasting, Brian mentioned, and I said, you know, Shooks and GIF is a real, just sort of like passion project of mine. I get in, I record, it's a lot of fun, and Kim and I banter back and forth. We've met a lot of people through it. And I thought, well, you know, let's create something when we started 4 years ago that could be completely replicable in the classroom. How can we do that? So we started using a tool called Anchor. Anchor was recently bought by Spotify, if you don't know about it, but it does everything you need for podcasting. Now, caveat, it is for ages 13 plus. I'm going to talk a little bit for the elementary teachers in here about how you could replicate it in another way in a second. But Anchor is amazing. So if I go into my own Anchor site here, you see this is Shooks and GIF, the podcast. This is where we do everything. The program itself pushes out to all the podcatchers, so I never have to worry about publishing or Libsyn or all these like weirdo things. We even only use, and if you can see my little square there, this is our fancy microphone. This is literally what we use. It is my old my earbuds from my old. Look at. Can you see that? Look. See, it's even my old iPhone. It's not even a new iPhone. We wrap it around my water bottle, which some days we forget that I'm going to get thirsty. And then I'm really trying to drink and my mic's there and it's just a disaster. But that's all we use because we want something that can be replicated. And I love this platform because first of all, it tells you how many people listened. So imagine students being able to get in and say, hey, oh, wow, look at how many people listened to this episode. It also tells you where in the world they listened from. So all of a sudden they get, you know, an international listener and it's like, oh, I got someone from, you know, New Zealand listening. Isn't that amazing? And it breaks it down with all these different categories. It's pretty amazing. And within it, if you want to build an episode, all they need to do is click new episode. It opens up. You say, okay, well, do you want to record right in Anchor? Do you want to go to the library, which are your recordings from other places that you've uploaded? It's called Anchor. There you go. Thank you. It's found at anchor.fm. You can, now that it's bought by Spotify, you can insert music. And so long as people are listening to the podcast on Spotify, the music will play. You can have messages. People can sort of call in, leave you messages. You can play, there's transitions. So we always start with the cheesy joke. It's wah, 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 like the sad trombone will play. You save it all up. Once you build it, it's literally as easy as drag and drop. So once I have something created, I'm like, okay, I've uploaded this to my library and I can drag it in there if I don't want to record right in the program. You save your episode once you have it all built out. And guess what? You put in your title, you put in your description, you say which season it is, and you can schedule it to go, or you can say, put it out right now, and off it goes. There's your episode. It is so, so easy. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, the other thing that I talk to teachers about, because I work with a lot of elementary teachers, like, well, how can I replicate this in a classroom? So I like to use online voice recorder and then either PowerPoint or Google Slides, depending on the district and you know, which tools you're working with your students. In order to do that, you just head over to onlinevoicerecorder.com. And this will do any kind of voice recording. I'll put the link there in the chat. All you need to do is click this red button, and I can start talking about anything I want, and it will record. And if I want to pause, I can pause and collect my thoughts. And then I can unpause and continue to record again. And when I'm done recording, I hit stop. And I can drag these blue bars at the beginning and end very easily to cut any sort of lag out in either areas. You can't cut in the middle, unfortunately. It's not that robust, same as Anchor. And I hit save, it saves locally to my device. And from there, I can go in and create something like this. Here's a slide deck. I just put the artwork on the first slide. And then on the next slide, I put my show notes. I might have a little link here to that audio, right? And both PowerPoint and Google Slides, you can upload audio really easily. And there you go. You can also do this as a full class, right? So say, here's all of our class podcasts. So let's go see Shooks and GIF. You can click the one you want to hear, go back home. Let's go see, check this out. Listen in here, go back to the home, and there you go. Very easy, very accessible. It's so like low floors and high ceilings. And I've actually done this in my own school, and right near our French collection, we had our grade 12 French students create podcasts using Anchor. And we created QR codes for each of the shows. And now students come in and they they'll listen to each other. So our grade 12 teacher also teaches our 9th grade students. So they record with the 12s, and then the 9ths come in and do a listening project with the other students. So now they know, wow, it's going out on Anchor where we can push it to wherever we want, but there's other kids in the school who are going to listen, and they come and they show off, and it's really robust. I really love it. So I guess I want to ask you now, we'll open it to the floor, and I'll try to catch up back on the chat, but if anyone wants to jump in and say if there's anything in there that I miss, please feel free to do so. How do you create an authentic audience? What kind of authentic tasks do you do that might help others? Something doesn't have to be astronomical, but something that you think might inspire someone else to reach our students in authentic ways. I will try to be quiet, but I'm not very good at it.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah, fantastic. You know, I like your story about podcasting and just part of that journey. And, you know, I've got that similar journey. Creating those authentic opportunities, I think it's important for us to be able to model those things for our students, to go, hey, it's not that hard. And here's some of the things that I've done, right? So one of the things I do in my school is my grade 11s, they help produce our school newsletter. And, you know, I put their pictures at the bottom of it. At the end of it said, made by these kids, right? You know, so it goes out to families, and, you know, we track with Bitly our click count to see how's the engagement. And that's one of the ways that I do that. And we do that through Google Slides, right? So we turn the page 90 degrees and build and do desktop publishing in there.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I know you say in here something about show notes. For me, I really feel like my entire secondary English program could run as a podcast. I could have students read up nonfiction and fiction about a topic of their choice. They could have to reach out to an expert, and they could interview them. And then I would want to see their ability to write. So writing out show notes, be it in point form notes if you just are looking for organization, structure, form, or in full if you're looking for actual like convention, spelling, grammar, progression of ideas and that sort of thing. I think you could run your entire program. And I would argue that les profs en français peuvent faire la même chose, right? Like anyone could do it. It's awesome.
And I think those show notes are so important, like in our podcasting world, because, you know, when I listen, I'm out walking around on the street and I don't have an opportunity to go to those links that you're talking about. So when I get back to my computer, I can sit down and go and find those websites, right? And for yourself, even you're like, hey, when did we talk about that? And you can go back in your notes and go find it, right?
I do it all the time. I'm like, I know the tool for that. I'm just going to go back into the show notes. It's almost like this like mental thing for me to be able to go back and go to tools that I know I love and that I'll use at another time. So someone in here too says, how do you record in a class of kids? Okay, do I have any? I don't have the one I have here. I've actually created podcast little studios. I got big Rubbermaid tubs, like the 68-liter tubs. I lined them with that egg foam stuff you can put on a bed. So the tub itself, $6. The foam, I can do 2 tubs for $20. I just use any kind of hot glue or duct tape. I put it all in, and I actually have recordings of me just in a regular class by myself in the tub, which sounds a little bit more professional. And then I went out to the main hallway at a high school at lunch hour, recorded. And then I did the difference that I know this is crazy, but this is the sort of thing I do. I put the tub right over my head. So the long end was out, and I held up the microphone, and it was like that ambient noise in the background, but it sort of added to it. So you absolutely can do this fairly cheap if you're looking to do something live in a classroom. Because, and I'm sure there's parents who are always willing to donate things that they might have. It's amazing, or the community members, you can reach out and they'll help out too. It's so easy to do. And if you just look at like Rubbermaid podcast studio on I think that's what I do on Google. If you Google it, you'll probably find templates for it. That's how I first saw one. I'm like, I can do this, and I did, and I keep it in the library, and off it goes. Right, it's great for that. I see here a lot of people are there's some really great ideas in this chat. I hope I can capture this chat for later. I see that someone does a juice house, like a coffee house thing, and they bring it with kid performers. I love that, right? Allowing that for marks or not, that community building. We're going to get to community building in a little bit. Writing letters. Yeah, there's a really great story about students who a student went to Walmart and saw how much waste there was and petitioned their local Walmart to actually give that food to food banks and to soup kitchens and whatnot. And it was a whole thing. It was grade 5 students. And just because of these letters and their lived experiences, They went to town council, they presented there, they made partnerships with the local food bank. And it was so beautiful. And they really felt like they had a purpose. And through the whole thing, the teacher's like, I just wanted them to learn how to write letters. And it turned into this really big thing. So sometimes our small intentions turn into really huge worthy causes, right? It's wonderful. We see stuff more on Flipgrid. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Flipgrid next, actually, because I love me the Flipgrid. Well, thank you for those who are listeners of Shooks and Gift. Thank you, thank you. Portable studios, love the tub. Yeah, I'll see if I can find. Yeah, I think I have, but if I haven't, you know what? I'll write a little note here. I still like pen and paper.
With the Hyundai Kona and get great savings during the Hyundai.
Hold on, there we go. I'll tweet one out when we're done so that I can find it. That's awesome. All right, thank you for your input. Please make sure you dive into the chat there and write anything down that you think your students might like. Because when Randy asked me to do this, he said, I really want people to share those ideas. And we can't teach in silos, we know that. I used to run an event in my district called EdTech Camp on Air and EDU on Air. And we would just go in and showcase different things that we were doing in schools, because it's so easy to get in and people at your school know, but it might really make an impact on other people. So that networking, as I'm sure George talked about yesterday, is so important in that connection building. All right. So the other thing I like to do with my students is make sure that they have an authentic audience, but that they're giving back. So not just about marks. And I got involved with this virtual holiday storytelling with a woman in New York State who amasses all of these elementary students across the US and, you know, has people around the world read stories to them. And I said, yeah, she reached out and said, would you like to be part of it? And I said, I'd love to be, but does it have to be me? Can I do this with my students? And as a teacher librarian, I know the kids who love to read, and I see a lot of students who want to be teachers, who want to work in this sort of field. And so I reached out to a bunch of my regulars, or my homies, as I call them. And I said, hey, any chance you want to come in and read? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So we got on and they were reading these holiday stories. It's so awesome. And then our music kids got wind of it, because they sort of overlap. And they're like, hey, miss, so like between the stories, what happens? I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, do you think that we could come in and play some music? And I was like, let's ask. So sure enough, they did. They turned it into Between Stories. We have the big screen in our learning commons. And so they're like, let's put on a fireplace to give it this tone. It's so cheesy, but I absolutely love it. And it worked well. This is sort of virtual backgrounds, like Zoom virtual backgrounds, before Zoom virtual backgrounds were a big thing, I think. And they came in and they would just play a little bit. And then the music teacher got involved and he's like, hey, can I just send kids up on this like rolling schedule throughout the day? So we had live music in the learning commons. And then we had all these people from all over the world, well, mostly US, listening to our students. And they were like, hey, that was a lot of fun. And they were able to do these really great things, which I thought was so engaging for them, right? And it didn't take me a lot. It was just someone's like, hey, can you read to my class? And sometimes if we plant those seeds in the minds of the students and let them run with it, they can come up with way more than we would ever think that they would want to do, or sometimes even what they're capable of doing. So this year when it hit and we couldn't do it, right? We were also like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? I still wanted my students to share their voice. I still wanted them to be able to tell people how they were feeling and whatnot. And we had a lot of discussions around the pandemic. How are you feeling? What are you doing? And how's your mental health? We continue to have those discussions. And we were doing a documentary unit. So I said, hey, how about this? At the end of our unit, as you're culminating, instead of a documentary on anything, all your teachers are asking you the same thing. They're all saying, oh, how are you doing? And what are you feeling like? And what if we made 1 to 3 minute documentaries about our experience as students during the pandemic here at Richmond Hill High School and how we're feeling? And they're all like, okay, great. And so they all came in, and I'll tell you, we talk about onions. I'm going to share with you Erica's, with her permission. This was Erica and what she wanted the teachers at her school to know about how she was feeling during the pandemic. It's going to take a minute to load. Here we go.
All right, it's recording. Hi, my name is Erica Goldmans. I'm a student in grade 12. I think I can say that all of us have gone through something during this quarantine. And when I originally decided to film this documentary, I wanted to play a negative effect. I wanted everyone to feel what we felt when we were in our homes for so long, unable to see people, unable to touch people, unable to communicate like we did in the past. And I started writing down all the negative things that I could think of during this quarantine. I only came up with like 5 or 6. But then I started thinking about the positive things that really changed me.
So I thank Erica for allowing me to share that today. And I think it brings me to my second point. We engage students when we amplify student voice. Erica loved working on this project. All of my students who shared loved working on this project. They were like, yeah, there weren't too many restrictions. There weren't too many guidelines for them to follow other than get your message out there and use what we know about, effective storytelling in documentaries. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I started reflecting when I was making my list of how we engage on what I use. And for me, it's Flipgrid. I love Flipgrid. If you don't know it, it's a Microsoft tool. It was acquired by Microsoft 2 or 3 years ago now. It is amazing. It's really great for asynchronous video. And when it first came out, people thought, oh, okay, you ask a question and they leave a response, but there's so much more we can do with it. And one way that I use it in the Learning Commons is with our artwork. So I have a great partnership with our art department and we have art constantly, but it's hung pretty high and it's up and it's people sort of look and it just sort of lives there like furniture. And I wanted it to come alive. So I thought, well, what if we did something a little bit cool here? What if we actually made the paintings come alive and did like an artist walk? I'd recently been down at the Royal Ontario Museum and, you put in the headphones and you walk through this curated sort of collection. And I was walking through and I was like, oh, I bet you I could do something like this. And sure enough, Flipgrid popped into my mind because here's the thing, with every single time a student records in Flipgrid, and by the way, Flipgrid you can record a video or they have a mic only feature now too for students who might be a little camera shy. At the very top on the teacher side, for every single entry in a topic, there's this, it says print QR codes and you get a sheet that looks like this. Well, what can we do with these QR codes? Well, what you can do is what I did. I had paintings up and somewhere near those pieces of art, I would put the AR codes. What would we do with them? I would encourage students to walk around and scan them. Now you do need the Flipgrid app. It's 100% free. But if they didn't have it, I also have iPads around that they can go around. And I actually have like things on the floor to like guide them through so that it's not just like the big open space. And when they got to a different piece of art, they would take out their phone and they would scan that QR code. And then what would start playing on their phone that they could either watch if there was video or just listen to is something like this.
Generally, in stories and films, women are not portrayed as characters with strength and courage who become the heroine of the story. To counter this stereotypical view, I chose to portray a female version of Captain Hook battling the crocodile. The use of watercolor to create a dark background is to symbolize how not every children's story is happy and cheerful, but can have a serious message to teach.
So it's short, it's to the point. But now I have this little gallery and I have student voice being amplified throughout my space. And there's many ways that you can use Flipgrid for this. And there's many tools. Someone said here about VoiceThread is in there. Screencastify, you can do things like this. Yeah, STEAM contest showing Rube Goldberg videos. Okay, I love Rube Goldberg. When we went into shutdown back in the spring, I have three boys, which I don't know why they haven't come running in here. Or they're not stomping above my head, but they're 11, 8, and 8. And we did a ton of Rube Goldberg stuff in that, in the spring, we built them to keep them engaged. But anyway, back to Flipgrid. You can do virtual show and tells because the great thing with Flipgrid, like Anchor, it's by platform. So I can use it on iOS. I can use it on, a Google phone, like on Android. I can use it on Mac. I can use it on PC. I can use it on any tablet. It's amazing. And for this, so a virtual show and tell, I could have students just, pick up and be like, hey, here's my hairbrush. Hey, here's my water bottle. But they could also go out through their community and showcase what's going on around them if they're at home and you don't see them, and you can build that community, which we're actually going to get to next. Another great idea, we're coming up on the end of the year. Why not have graduation speeches? Why do we only need one valedictorian speaking? As a former valedictorian, why couldn't have other people had something to say? So everyone do their end of year little piece on Flipgrid is beautiful, and it can be shared out. And then finally, virtual yearbooks as well. For the schools that are normally in person, you don't have the same pictures. This is a really cool way to get videos up on a free platform that can be quite secured for just your students to be able to see. So I'm curious for you, other than what's already been in the chat there, how do you amplify student voice in your own practice? What do your students do to feel like they have that voice to share? Look back up here again. Brian, feel free to jump in with me if you want. Oh, applying for a research grant for a science concept. I love that. We're trying to do. Yeah, absolutely. Design thinking is another really great way to do that. If you don't know about design thinking, it's a bit longer and I don't want to get into it here, but the idea of that sort of rapid ideation and coming up with prototypes, or like the Flintstone version of your product, and then pitching it. I do that a lot with my leadership class, and it can be really effective. It's stressful. The kids are like, I don't like this fast deadlines, but it's very real world to them. And it's great if you can bring in community to help with that as well. That's awesome. Yeah,
Jen, what I like about that, the pitch is that it's about a deadline that's coming. They got to do it. And it's about not being perfect, right? And working past that need to be perfect, because none of us are. But we strive for excellence, and
Yeah, and there's two things there, Brian. I think that done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Time, right? If we get something done, it's better than perfect, because we get this perfection paralysis. And Dr. Bates, near the end when I jumped in, was also talking about these hard deadlines. So design thinking allows for that. I know a few people said, oh, hard deadlines, that might be hard. I know it'd be really hard in our district to get the support. But when you have this iteration and these multiple opportunities and the feedback throughout it, it can be really powerful for our students. And then you have the deadline, but that sense of urgency is sort of built into the project. Yeah. Gallery walk. Seeing Seesaw. Seesaw is a great tool for amplifying student voice and for collections for portfolios. I love Seesaw. That's awesome. Great. All right, so let's go on then to my final story for you. The final sort of point I want to talk about when we talk about engaging students. I want to introduce you to my class. So here they are. Do you have similar students?
That's the same class picture I got.
Yeah, it's funny, right? A little purple V and pink K and the class clown green R. This is how my class looks. And mostly at the beginning. They're better now, but a lot of that took a lot of work, right? We had to do a lot of work. And I have a lot of friends in the US who were teaching like the month before me, and they're like, no one has their cameras on. This is so disparaging, and I don't know how I'm going to go on. And I feel that some days. I look at them, I'm like, hello. I'll get up and I'll like do the running man. I'm like, hey, what dance am I doing right now? And it forces them to come back to where I'm doing. And most of them are just like, Miss, you're too old. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm okay with being old. I got vaccinated because I'm old. What? Okay, so I started thinking about what is it that I can do to engage students so that they'll turn on the camera. And before I do that, though, I need a little bit of humor in here. I need to show you this video. This is at my teacher face on on TikTok. And this is what she does at the end of every class. She has a game to see who will be the last one there. She makes me laugh every time. She's a great follow. If you're on TikTok, if you're not on TikTok, it brings me so much joy. Don't make TikToks. Don't put them on. It's toxic. But to watch some of them, hilarious, like this one.
And so until tomorrow, I will say goodbye, squares. Oh, interesting. Okay, Carly. Last one. Are you there? Carly? Carly? There are worse things I could do than just end this meet for you. You can sit there while I sing. You don't have to do a thing. Carly?
Let me in, right? Carly, are you there? And the kids started to, I guess, realize that she was doing this, that she was singing them little songs, because at the very end of one of her TikToks, she stops and she's like, oh, and it's her niece who is the last one in the room. And she's like, I can't believe it's you. And then it was also, I'm pretty sure it was done this year on April the 1st. So it was an April Fool's joke. And she started singing her song, and then her niece started, I was just like, I'm still here. And just like a punker, which I thought was hilarious. But it's that sort of community building, right? And that's what I want to get to. The final thing is, I really think we engage students when we build community. Curriculum's important, don't get me wrong. We all know this. But if we don't have community, if we don't have that safety, if we don't feel like we matter in our classrooms, that as adult learners or as, you know, our younger scholars, we are not going to have that engagement level. So there's a few things I like to do. I love to put up comics like this. Sometimes I'll have a speech bubble, or I just say, caption this photo, and to see what funny things that they come up with, right? Like think, well, do it right now. What would you caption this photo with? We'll wait for some of those in the chat. This one makes me laugh. Can you imagine? Oh, the masks.
I felt like putting a mask on this morning just to be safe, right? When we all sit down so close.
It's weird when you don't have it on. Okay, another thing that I love to do here is to ask questions to provoke ideas and discussion. So if you had a remote control with only one button that controls something in your life, what would that button do? And oh, I love that. Now I recognize you. So I'll tell you, my button would be a mute button, because like I said, 3 little boys, my house is so loud. Oh my gosh, people, it's so loud all the time. It's so loud. But, you know, I was very curious to see what some of these students said. They're like, oh, okay, well, what kind of remote control, miss? And it got them going at the beginning. It's sort of like, I equate it to like if I worked out, what it would be like to do stretching before I worked out. Do you remember working out and going to a gym? Good times, like eating in restaurants and bowling. Can we talk about bowling? Remember we all used to go to one place, put on other people's shoes, stick our fingers in a ball that God knows who had touched, and then throw it down a lane, and then go back and eat the pizza and the popcorn? What were we thinking? Anyway, the world has changed. All right, so I love bowling too. I totally love bowling. The other thing that I love to do is these on a scale of, and if you Google on a scale of, you can get a ton. And I put these up at the beginning, and this is a good gauge or thermometer for me to understand where students are at. Which David Rose are you feeling like today? You, David, right? And everyone puts in all their little like things that they love about Schitt's Creek. And I know if most of my class is a number 7, right? If most of my class is 7, I'm probably going to want to rethink a lesson that might be really heavy. I might be like, maybe we need to alter some stuff. Right? Whereas if everyone is more like feeling cheeky, like number 5, right? And it's so easy to do. Look at how many people have put it in already. That's right. Totally a 9. I'm feeling a little bit, I'm a little bit all over. I'm probably mostly 5. I feel a little cheeky today. Well, that's kind of normal for John Giffen. So there you go. So that's another one that I love to do. This one, I'm going to show you the 2 biggest ones that have really got my students going. A hot dog is a sandwich. Agree or disagree and justify. My kids went crazy on this, like crazy. They're like, no, it's not. And I just kept posing those questions. So if you're gonna do inquiry with your students, why not start something like this, right? Why not start with a little like just question about like, hey, what do you think about this? Now, it turns out that a hot dog is a taco because it's not a sandwich, because a sandwich has 2 pieces of bread with meat between. And a taco has like 1 piece of carb with meat in the middle and toppings. I had Crystal in my class completely justify this to the point where I was like, can you write this out for me? Because I would like to give you marks for this, right? And when we talk about different ways we can assess our students too, why not let her justify in this sense rather than something we're reading? It was really well thought out. And then finally, this was the big one. I actually had to use the mute all button in my classroom, because I asked them, 1 must go. What do you want for the rest of your life? Bacon, tacos, donuts, or sushi? One of them has to go. The other 3 are there. And of course, the correct answer is, in the chat, what do you think the correct answer is? Let's see if you're right. Correct. Donuts must go. Oh my gosh, you are all so smart. It is donuts. My kids tried to say bacon. It's like, are you crazy? Now, granted, I used to teach at a school with a high Muslim population. I would have understood there, but not a single one. I said, okay, is there anyone saying this for religious reasons? Like, can you not eat pork? And they were all like, no, it's just bacon's bad for you. I'm like, you think refined sugar is good for you? What is wrong? I can get like the same satisfaction from cake or from a good cookie as I can a donut. You cannot replace bacon. You people are animals. And they were shouting at me. And all of a sudden, you know, we're like, oh, we have 20 minutes left in class. Okay, I guess that was today. But we built that community. And the next day when we came together, we were talkative. I love it. So I do have all of these for you. There is a folder, and I'll type the link here in the chat for you, that I've curated most of these. I haven't created all of them, but they have, hold on, I can't type and talk at the same time. It's a superpower I don't have yet. Give community, that should get you there. It's a folder open to everyone. File, make a copy of anything in there that you want. And they're just little things so you don't have to go searching. And when I find good ones, I throw them in and off we go, and it's a lot of fun. The other thing that I love to do, and if we had more time together, I'm realizing our time is coming to a close, is Breakout EDU. If you've ever done a escape room, right, where you're locked in a room and then you have to solve the clues to get out, this is the school version of it. If you don't know it, it's illegal apparently to lock kids in a room and say that they can't get out. And right now, locking everyone in a room together is probably not COVID compliant. So Breakout EDU allows us to do this online. And the breakout that I have there is one I created a number of years ago now, probably 4 years ago, called It's Your Birthday, which is pretty generic. Everyone has a birthday, although not everyone I recognize celebrates them. All you need to do is read everything on this website, go to the very bottom. There's some more clues down there. Use all the pictures. Anything that's underlined, hint, hint, is usually a link to somewhere else. And what you need to do is try to figure out all of the clues here. So 4-digit lock. So let's say you thought it was 5, 6, 7, 8 because of something. There you hit submit. If you were right, it will stay white. But if you're wrong, it will say task incomplete. Okay, and that can be found at http:// not bot.ly, that's a totally different site. I have no idea where that will take you. Maybe you'll get a ton of Twitter followers. I have no idea. BDBO, and that stands for breakout, not body odor, because nobody wants to go to that party, right? But isn't it nice wearing masks and not having bad breath anymore? That's really, or not like smelling anyone's bad breath. Love it. That's the one that I have. They're pretty easy to create. And if it's something that you're interested in, please send me a message on Twitter at Virtual GIF. And I have a whole package that gives you resources and how to build one beginning to end. They take a while. I will tell you, that one took me about 4 hours. I can now make them in 40 minutes. Your first one will take a bit, but build them with students because they love them, especially as review material for a unit. Another one that I love is Kahoot. I'm sure we all know Kahoot. The music itself is thebomb.com. And if you haven't heard of it, another tool that has come out is called Bluekit. So one thing I don't love about Kahoot is it's the fastest fingers win, right? The fastest fingers, they go. I don't necessarily want that. I want some thought, and Bluekit allows some strategy to be put in as well. So check that out. It looks a little elementary. My grade 11s love it. They ask to play it all the time. Flippity is another one. You can create quiz shows. And if you're looking to have kids buzz in really quickly, buzzin.live totally allows you to have like a buzzer. We actually do trivia every Tuesday night with my husband's company. We often run it. I call it Jeopardy. This is Jeopardy. And we do a whole little trivia game. It's super fun. And we use Buzz in Lives to know who's buzzed in first. So all these little tools can really help with that engagement. I also love games. And my last sort of share here is a folder full of games that I've curated. So board games that people have taken and turned in to Google Slides. So you like Scrabble, it is here. You like Locust, it's here. You like Trouble, Battleship, they're all in here. And again, that link is bit.ly/GIF games. Again, I'll type it in as I play Beat the Clock here, noticing the time. GIF games. And I think that's good. There we go. If nothing else, I want you to have a loot bag to take home at the end of this. All right. So as we finish up here, I would love to hear how you build community. If you want to throw that in the chat, but because we're at the top of the hour, I will start wrapping it up. The 3 things I hope that you take from this time we've spent together is that in order to engage students, we need authentic audience. We need to amplify student voice, and we need to build a community. And I really believe if we can keep those 3 things in the forefront, more so than anything else we're doing in education, I think we're going to have happy students and be happy educators. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. I wish you all the best. Stay safe, wear your mask. As I tell my students every Friday, don't do drugs unless they're prescribed. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Jen, for being here today. Thanks for bringing yourself. And you know what? If you want to listen to more of Jen, the way she shared her enthusiasm and fun, take a listen to Shooks and GIF, and you'll be inspired every time you listen. So, Jen, thanks so much again for being here. And you have added to our DL digital learning community, and we have some energy and enthusiasm. And I got my shot yesterday too. So at same date, we got our shots, right?
Oh, we're shot buddies.
I know, exactly. And it hurts.
Shot buddies again.
Different. It's different, right? Yeah, we should get together and do that. So great. Well, thank you so much. And Randy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. That was great. I was monitoring and listening, but I was also putting together the evaluation for sharing at our afternoon session. So thanks, Jen. And yes, I've planked on my exercise for Shooks and GIF constantly. So we really appreciate that. And thanks everyone here. Now, Jen, is Michelle in the house here? Michelle Armstrong? So because...
I am.
Okay, so maybe we can talk a little bit about what we're doing for Cobblestone Collective, because we're going to go right from here into teams, and others will take a break. But tell us a little bit of how we get in, out, how long we need to stay, what's going on.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. So the next 30 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to spend time digging into those tools that Jen just talked all about. Plus, I was furiously writing names of those of you that posted in the chat of all of your great ideas. So we just want to take 30 minutes and combine our brains and just play in these tools so that we don't forget them. That's the first 30 minutes. Then the last, gosh, I think it's like an hour and a half. We have a number of tools that we just love to show you, and it's actually thanks to Microsoft for funding it. So it's all sorts of great Microsoft tools, but that you can access even without a Microsoft account. To get into our team session, Randy, do you want me to post the link here in the chat?
Yeah, sure, post the link in the chat. And while you're doing that as well, Michelle, also post a link. Don't click on it yet, folks. Also post a link to your website, because Cobblestone Collaborative is doing some awesome work, excellent stuff. They've brought us, well, Brian brought us into Michelle. Michelle brought us into a whole world that is really we're capitalizing on, that really connects for us as part of these symposiums. So Michelle is a great partner to have with and be with. Follow them. They've got a lot of other stuff. We get snippets of it, but get the full meal deal with Michelle. Follow Cobblestone Collective for sure. And you'll get all kinds of tips and ideas. And it's not just about tech tools.
No. Hey, Randy, can you snag that chat, please? Save that chat for us.
Yeah, it's automatically saved, but I'll grab it and save it right now, just in case.
Excellent, thanks.
Okay.
And should we mention at this point, Michelle, that event that's happening at the end? Should we tell them?
Oh my goodness, they probably already know. Anybody who's been to the DL Symposium knows about the Demo Slam at the end. Right. Yeah. Where if Brian has paid you off, he's not allowed to do that. He's hoping to win the crown this year, but hopefully you guys will all win some awesome prizes. But that's the Demo Slam at the end of the day. So hope to see you there too.
Okay, so Teams link again. Off you go into the Teams room, and those that want to take a break, you can hang out. Kumo Space is the other place to go. It's in the discussion den. And anything else, Thomas or Danica?
No, I think a big thank you to both Tony and Jen this morning, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this conversation continue in the team session. So Michelle's headed there now by the looks of it. So make your way there. And then again, remember that we have lots of other sessions this morning as well, starting at 10:30. And those are all in Sched. You'll find the links there. They'll go live about 10 minutes before the session. And yeah, we're really looking forward to another great day of learning today. And I can't wait to see the Demo Slam this afternoon. I've heard some rumors that it's gonna be a big one. So
and Jen, you're gonna hang out in Teams as well? Okay.
I'm okay for about another hour and a bit until I'm going back to teach. So okay. It's all really nicely right in my lunch hour and my prep period.
Perfect. So if people want to find you, they can find you in Teams, or do they want to hang out here?
I can hang out here for a bit if you don't mind keeping it open, and then I'm going to head over to and see Michelle. Why don't we do that since I'm here anyway?
Okay. All right. So you got questions for Jen? Here it is. I'm going to kick off the recording.